Do you think that your Los Angeles home would skyrocket in value if it was designated a historical cultural monument? Well, in this video, we're going to discuss the effects of your resale and your property values for historic designations. We're going to talk about the Mills Act, which is a great incentive program to help preserve these historic homes. And we're going to talk about where you can find historic properties in the Los Angeles area. Hi, my name is Felipe Crook with eXp Realty. I've been a realtor for over 21 years, and one of the things that I love most about selling homes here in the Los Angeles area is the different types of architecture here. You have some homes that are over 100 years old, and if you really like a retro, charming property, you can definitely find that out here. But what does it mean to be historically significant? Essentially, it means that you have unique characteristics and features that are of historic significance and add to the overall appeal to a property. Now, these features can be anything from architectural to cultural heritage. Let's talk about the architectural significance first. So typically a home that is built in a specific period, let's say a craftsman or a mid-century modern, or you have even Victorian properties here. All of those will have significant architectural details that are unique to that property, including woodwork, specific molding, specific types of windows. And a lot of them will show the construction techniques and the trends of the era. Now, the other side of this is the cultural heritage. Now, this means that the property was involved in some kind of historical event or a historical figure owned that property. The best example that I have of this right now is Marilyn Monroe's house. Now, this house has been in the news a lot because there's been a lot of drama around it. Basically, last July, the next door neighbors of Marilyn Monroe's house bought it for $8.3 million, and they decided that they were going to demolish it and include that yard into their property line. They submitted a permit for demolition, and one of the council members saw that and made it her mission to designate this as a historical cultural monument. A year of lawsuits back and forth, and the entire city council, in a vote of 12-0, voted to put this as a historical designation. So when a house has a historical designation, you cannot demolish it. Now, the funny thing about that is that this property has been remodeled multiple times since Marilyn Monroe passed away, and it's been 60 years, and there was never historically designated before. So it's a little bit odd timing, but the city council spoke, and they have now preserved Marilyn Monroe's property. So how does a historical designation actually impact your home's value? Well, if you look at this chart here, historic homes on the National Registry are 5.6% more expensive than similar size home in the same zip code, but they sell 3.4% slower. Now, the reason why they probably sell a little bit slower is because anytime you buy a historically designated property, you have restrictions on what you can do to that property. Also, homes in national historic districts appreciate 1.4% faster than homes in the same county that are not in historic districts. So having a designated home as a historic cultural monument does increase your value, makes it a little bit more expensive, and helps your appreciation versus a non-designated property. Which brings me to my next point, where you can find properties that are historic significance. In Los Angeles, we have these things called HPOZs, which is a historic preservation overlay zone. These HPOZs are scattered throughout Los Angeles, and they include Angelino Heights, Hancock Park, Highland Park, Lafayette Square, University Park, Van Nuys, West Adams Terrace, and Whitney Heights, just to name a couple. So if you are specifically looking for a really charming home with historic significance, we can definitely help you find the right property. But just know this, if you are somebody who wants to remodel a house, there is lots of extra things that you have to go through in order to do that. In any HPOZ, you have an HPOZ committee that will actually dictate what you can and cannot do to the exterior of your property, and sometimes the interior of some of those properties as well. So if you have the idea that you're going to change the face of the property that you bought in an HPOZ, well, I hate to tell you, it's probably not going to happen. If you are looking to preserve a home, California is actually helping people do that with an act called the Mills Act. Back in 1972, this was enacted as an economic incentive to help people preserve historical properties. Basically, what they're going to do is they're going to specialize your tax rate on your property for a much lower rate in order to offset some of the cost of preservation. So if you see a property that's advertised as a Mills Act property, you know that the property taxes are going to be significantly lower, but there are going to be some restrictions on how you can use that property. Now, these contracts are initially 10 years and they auto renew, so they're considered a rolling contract. But this is one way to incentivize people to actually preserve historic properties here in the Los Angeles area. Now, if you want to designate your Los Angeles home as a historic cultural monument, you will need to start that process with the Office of Historic Resources within the City Planning Department. And here are some of the key steps involved with that process. The first step is you're going to have to apply and nominate a specific property. You're going to follow the guidelines from the Office of Historic Resources. They provide you a guide for the nominating process. In 2018, there was an update to the Cultural Historic Ordinance, so make sure you follow that and all the rules in that specific ordinance in order to designate your property historic. The next thing is you have to go through the Cultural Heritage Commission. These are a 5-person committee that are appointed by the mayor, and they're going to evaluate nominations for city historic cultural monuments. They also review proposed projects that could affect existing monuments. Basically, the commission is going to evaluate whether your property does have historic significance and approve it or deny it based on that criteria. Now, one of the cons about owning a historical cultural monument is that it can be very expensive because you can't just stop at Home Depot and get a new set of windows. A lot of these features in these historic properties are custom made, or they're so old that you have to go source them in different locations, which can be very, very expensive. Also, the craftsmanship that you see in historic properties tends to be a little bit more intricate than what you see nowadays in modern structures. So it's definitely more expensive. It's definitely more time consuming because you have to get approvals from a lot of these committees like an HPOZ. But if you are a lover of historic properties, there are a lot of options for you. If you need help finding a historic property for yourself or your family, please let me know. I'd be more than happy to help you out. You can text me at 213-268-6832, or you can schedule a time to chat with me in the link in my bio. Again, my name is Felipe Crook with eXp Realty, investing in your dreams.